me Crystal, and we're about to start on the Let's Talk About It series. So the Let's Talk About It series is a series in which I will discuss a variety of health topics that affect maternal child health as well as women's health and overall well-being. And the way the series is going to be formatted is I will answer a series of basic questions related to the health topics. So I'm basically going to answer the what, the why, the who, and the hows of these different health topics. I will sometimes throw in some tips and tricks that I've learned on the way through my mentors and other people that I've discussed these health topics with, as well as have additional people join me on some of these topics and videos that we would discuss. So going forward, if you have further questions about these topics, specifically related to specific topics that we discuss, feel free to go to my Instagram and shoot me a message, and I will be more than happy to answer those questions. In addition, all the sources in which I got my information from will be linked in the description bars of each topic, each video, and so you are more than welcome to click on those and continue reading further on these subjects. Without further ado, let's go into our first video. Hi, so we're going to dive into our first topic of the series, and we're going to start with cervical cancer. So January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, and so I felt it was only relevant to start off the year by talking about this. So what is cervical cancer? So simply put, cervical cancer is the cancer of the cervix. Now, for those of you who may not know what the cervix is, the cervix is the opening of the uterus. So it is the part of the female reproductive system that kind of sections off the vagina from the uterus. And so cervical cancer is a cancer of that region. So the most known cause of cervical cancer is HPV. Not to say that HPV is the only cause of cervical cancer, but the most common cause of cervical cancer is HPV. And HPV, also known as human papillomavirus, is a virus that is sexually transmitted. So for most people, HPV poses no symptoms at all. You can have HPV and not even realize it. And for most strains of HPV, it simply just goes away after a couple months or years, depending on who you are. And so HPV only really becomes a problem when it has lingered for a long time, or if you're carrying a specific strain. And it has been found that certain strains of HPV can cause more than just cervical cancer. They can cause testicular cancer, cancer of your penis, cancer of your tongue, cancer of the back of your throat. So why is cervical cancer such a problem? Let's just look at 2020 statistics. On top of everything that was happening with COVID-19, in 2020, an estimated 13,000 plus people were diagnosed with new cases of cervical cancer. So in 2020, there were over 13,000 people who were diagnosed with cervical cancer and over 4,000 who died from it. So cervical cancer affects a lot of women. Even though the most diagnosed age group are women between 35 and 44, it is starting to occur more and more in women in their 20s. And so it's important to bring about awareness. So the reason I chose to specifically emphasize my first video on cervical cancer is because cervical cancer is a preventable cancer, and it can be prevented in 3 easy steps. I mean, don't get me wrong, these are not like 100% proof you won't develop cervical cancer, but you will reduce your risk of later developing. And the first and most important step is, if you can, get your HPV vaccine. The HPV vaccine is a 2-dose vaccine. You get one and then you get your second one after 6 months, and you're eligible to get it until the age of 26. It might be higher, don't quote me on that, but it's a 2-step vaccine that essentially protects you from at least the 9 most dangerous strains of HPV. So even though HPV comes and goes and you never notice if you have it, those 9 strains can really be problematic, and you want to make sure you're protected overall And so I would encourage you and your sexual partners, make sure you and your sexual partners are up to date with your HPV vaccine, so that it's it's one less STI to worry about, to be honest with you, and it's one less cancer to be worried about. And then the second step is Pap smears. If you're 21 years or older or you are sexually active, it is important, especially from the time you're sexually active or 21 or older, before you have kids, it's encouraged that you have a Pap smear once every couple years, once every 3 years or 2 years, depending on what you and your gynecologist or medical physician decide. But it's very important that you go in and have those done, because with cervical cancer, it's one of those cancers, just like all the other cancers. The earlier you detect it, the greater chances you are to beat it and never develop it again. And then lastly, your last step that everyone can do, even if you're unable to get your HPV vaccine or a Pap smear, is to practice safe sex, which means condoms, regular testing if you can, and disclosure with your partners about your sexual activities or partners or STDs or any of that. Just safer sex practices will protect you as far as they can. But it is important to follow the first two, which are, if possible, get your vaccine, and if possible, regular Pap smears. Those are your best defenses against cervical cancer. Alright, so we've come to the end of the first episode. I hope you liked it. I do apologize. I did babble through it, but I feel like with time and consistency, I'll get a hold of how to effectively communicate these points to you without rambling or babbling or mumbling. But if you have any questions, leave them down in the description below. If you have any resources, if you know any places where you can get your HPV vaccine for free or a Pap smear for free, or visit with them. I know there's a lot of organizations that do nonprofit work. So if you have any information related to cervical cancer that you feel that my subscribers can benefit from, leave it below in the comments and I will gladly share your information. If you are trying to get in touch with me personally, follow me on my Instagram. I'll put the handle somewhere over there. And I am always open to have a chat and conversation with you about anything health. For me, I will see you guys next week. Goodbye.